Okay, so think about this for a second, all right? You know that habit, uh, the one you probably don't even think twice about. What if I told you that it was like the secret drain on your energy? And maybe even like holding you back from feeling truly confident and getting stuff done. It's one of those things we kind of tiptoe around, don't we?
It really is something, isn't it? How often the things we do most consistently are also the ones we examine the least.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's a certain resistance, I think, to really looking closely at things we think of as private or just, normal.
Right. And that's exactly what we're tackling today. So we found this YouTube video. It's from Stoicism Mindset, and the title is, well, it's pretty bold. You will stop masturbating after you know this stoicism. I mean, you gotta admit, it grabs your attention, right?
Well, absolutely. It's certainly designed to make you stop scrolling.
Yeah, for sure. And look, just to be clear, we're not here to tell anyone what they should or shouldn't do with their own lives, okay? We're more interested in the arguments themselves, especially the way they use Stoic philosophy to make their point. Think of it like this. We're going to explore a viewpoint that might challenge the way you currently see things.
Exactly. The goal here isn't to say whether we agree or disagree with the video's claims. It's more about trying to understand the logic behind them, especially from that Stoic perspective. Like, what are the core arguments they're making about self-control, about where our energy goes, and this link they're drawing between this specific habit and feeling truly fulfilled? Like, what's the why behind everything they're saying?
Right. Okay, so let's just jump right into the heart of their argument. So they start off by saying that this habit, and yeah, they come right out and call it masturbation. It's not just some neutral thing. They say it's having a seriously negative impact. Like it's stealing your energy, killing your confidence, and a big reason why you feel stuck or unfulfilled.
It's interesting how they just come right out and say it, don't they? Like, it's not framed as some harmless little thing you do, but as something that's actually working against you. They're drawing a very clear line, at least in their view, between doing this and feeling exhausted, unmotivated, or like you're trapped in this cycle you can't break out of. It's pretty intense.
Totally. And it puts it right on you, right? Like, have you actually stopped and thought critically about this part of your life? Because they're basically saying you haven't. It's a direct challenge, isn't it? Like to just accept something as normal, even healthy.
Yeah, it is. And then they immediately contrast that kind of modern view with what they claim is the wisdom of the ancient Stoics.
Yeah.
Their argument is that these philosophers, they really understood human nature. They understood self-control in a way that we've kind of lost.
Yeah. Like we're missing some important piece of the puzzle.
Right. It's like, in our rush to make everything okay, maybe we've overlooked something really important.
Okay, so they lay out this pretty serious problem. Then they start to explain the mechanics of it. And they start with what they call a scientific argument, or at least their take on the science.
Yeah. And that's where the dopamine comes in.
Dopamine.
Right. They explain that when you do this, it triggers a big release of dopamine in the brain, which is, of course, the neurochemical linked to pleasure, to feeling good.
Mm.
And at first, you think, well, that makes sense, right? It's a natural way to feel pleasure.
Right, like, hey, a little boost of happiness, but then they turn it around.
Exactly. They say that this exact mechanism is actually the problem.
Interesting. Okay, so explain that a little bit more.
So their claim is that if you keep doing it over and over again, your brain starts to rely way too much on this easy, accessible source of pleasure. And it's that quick and easy part they see as the problem.
I see. So it's not just about pleasure, it's about how you get it, right?
Yeah. Their point is about the long-term effects of this always available reward. Like you get this dopamine surge every time, so your brain might start to get kind of desensitized to it.
Okay, so like with anything, too much of a good thing.
Right. And they even go so far as to say it can create a type of, well, maybe not a full-blown addiction, but at least like a tendency towards addictive behavior. And the result, they claim, is this overall feeling of being drained, having less motivation to do things that take effort, and ultimately just less drive to go after things that are truly rewarding. Like, why bother working hard for something when you can get that quick hit of pleasure without doing anything? That's kind of the underlying concern they're getting at.
Right, so like the brain starts to choose the easy reward over the satisfaction of actually accomplishing something.
Right.
Interesting. And this is where the Stoic philosophy comes back in, right? Because they're saying that the Stoics were already hip to this whole thing, like way before we even had the word neuroscience. They knew that humans are wired to seek pleasure and that it can be a trap.
Yeah. And this is where it gets really interesting, I think, because they try to connect this ancient wisdom with modern science. They bring up this quote from Seneca, "No man is free who is a slave to his body." And they use it directly in the context of this habit.
Powerful quote, man.
Right. And the way they interpret it is that when you give in to this urge, it makes you weaker mentally.
Yeah.
It's like you're teaching yourself that you need this instant gratification. And for them, that's the problem. It's the habit controlling you, not the other way around.
It's taking away your power.
Exactly. And then they bring up Marcus Aurelius, who is all about mastering your desires instead of letting them run the show. The video highlights this idea that true freedom comes from being in control. The more you chase easy pleasure, they argue, the less satisfied you'll be in the long run. You're basically becoming a prisoner to those impulses.
And this is where it gets even more thought-provoking, because they make this big claim that throughout history, all the people who really made a difference, the leaders, the thinkers, the innovators, they all had this one thing in common. They knew how to control their desires, and they contrast that with the people who were enslaved to their impulses. The implication being that this self-mastery, this ability to control yourself, was a key part of what made them so successful.
And that's a pretty big statement, right? Because if you think about it more broadly, what they're really saying is that giving into this habit is another way of being ruled by your impulses. And that by doing that, you're holding yourself back from being your best self. It's a powerful claim that makes you think.
It really does. Okay, so they've explained what they see as the problem and how the Stoics viewed it. But now they switch gears to offering solutions. Like, how do you actually break free from this cycle and reclaim your power? They give 3 main principles from Stoicism that they think are key: self-discipline, purpose, and what they call transmutation.
Yeah, let's break those down. The first one, self-discipline, is like the foundation for everything else. They use another great quote, this time from Epictetus: "No man is truly free who is not master of himself." And that really sums up the Stoic focus on inner control as the path to freedom.
Right, so you're not truly free if you can't control yourself.
Exactly. And they interpret it to mean that as soon as you decide to stop letting your immediate desires control you, that's when you start taking back your power. But here's the important part. They're not saying that self-discipline is about denying yourself everything. It's about choosing what's more valuable in the long run over what feels good right now.
Right, so it's about making a conscious choice.
Exactly. It's not punishment. It's like an investment in your future self. And every time you resist that urge, they say you're not just denying yourself something, you're actually getting mentally stronger.
Right.
Like you're building up your resistance to impulsive behavior, weakening the hold those desires have on you.
Like you're training your mind.
Exactly.
Okay, so what about the second principle? Purpose.
So their argument is that if you don't have a clear purpose in life, something meaningful that you're working towards, you're way more likely to fall into what they call pointless indulgences.
Right, so like you're trying to fill a void.
Yeah, and this fits with the Stoic belief that a life without direction or meaning just isn't as fulfilling. You're more easily distracted. So what they're saying is that if you're busy pursuing something meaningful, building a career, mastering a skill, contributing to something bigger than yourself, you naturally have lack time and energy for these kinds of habits.
Which is you're focused on something else.
Right.
So it's like filling that space with something that actually makes you feel good about yourself.
Exactly. It's about long-term satisfaction, not just that quick burst of pleasure that leaves you feeling kind of empty afterwards.
Makes sense. Okay, so now for the third principle, transmutation. This one sounds pretty interesting.
Yeah, this is where it gets a bit more abstract. So
Yeah.
they start with this idea that sexual energy is a really
See you soon for the next
force
part.
inside each of us. And when we just spend it on temporary pleasure, we're essentially wasting all that potential.
Okay, so instead of just releasing that energy, we can redirect it.
Right. They call it transmuting it into something productive.
Mm.
Like it can become fuel for your ambitions, your creativity. They even use Nikola Tesla as an example. You know, he was celibate, and they suggest that he was consciously channeling that energy into his inventions.
Whoa, that's kind of mind-blowing. So they're saying the Stoics were aware of this and that they believed you could actually use this energy to achieve great things.
Exactly. It's about using it to fuel your ambitions, your creativity, your self-discipline, instead of just going for that quick hit of pleasure.
Yeah.
And it really makes you think about how we understand and manage our own internal drives.
Yeah, no kidding. Okay, so they've given us these 3 Stoic principles for overcoming this habit. Now, they describe what they see as the climax, right? Like what happens when you actually quit?
Right. And this is where they paint this really inspiring picture of what life could be like. They talk about waking up with unbreakable confidence, no guilt, just pure energy. It's a pretty appealing vision, right?
For sure. And they list all these other benefits too, right?
Yeah, like your motivation skyrockets, you can focus better, you're more in control of your thoughts and actions. They even mention possible physical changes, like higher testosterone and sharper thinking.
So basically, it's all about reclaiming your power.
Right. It's about taking control of your mind, your body, your life. And they link it back to that Stoic idea of true freedom, which isn't just about not doing a certain thing, but about actively shaping yourself into the best version you can be.
Amazing. Okay, so we've covered the problem, the science, the Stoic philosophy, the solutions, and the potential benefits. Now, as we wrap up our deep dive into this perspective, the video leaves you with a challenge.
Yeah, it all comes down to this. Are you going to keep doing something you might not have really thought about? Or are you going to make a choice? Are you going to let this hold you back? Or are you going to rise above it and focus your energy on something else? They
Right.
want you to really think about it and decide what you want to do.
And their final thought really drives home this idea that the people who truly changed the world, they mastered themselves, not just their circumstances, but their own desires. It's like self-control is the key to achieving great things.
Right. It's this idea that maybe if we learn to control our urges, even the most basic ones, it could have a huge impact on our energy, our focus, our whole path in life.
It really makes you question everything, doesn't it? Like, how much control do we actually have over ourselves?
Exactly.
And I think even if you disagree with them about this specific habit, it makes you think, how do these principles, self-discipline, purpose, directing your energy, how can they apply to other parts of your life? Like, where do you feel stuck or like you're not reaching your full potential? It's a lot to think about.